All right, let's just dive right in. Today, we are tackling something that I know gives a lot of developers nightmares, and that is advanced algorithms, especially in a high-pressure interview setting.
So let me ask you this. Are these kinds of questions keeping you up at night? Because if they are, you are absolutely not alone. So many brilliant, talented coders I know just freeze up when that clock starts ticking, and they're staring at a whiteboard with some crazy-looking problem.
Yeah, it's usually these usual suspects, right? Dynamic programming, graphs, recursion. These are the ones that really make the pressure cooker feel like it's about to explode. It feels like this binary thing. You either get it instantly or you're totally lost. But what if I told you the secret isn't to master each one of these things separately? It's actually about seeing how they're all connected. Okay, let's talk about the wall, that feeling of just being completely and utterly stuck. You know this feeling. You're in the hot seat, you're staring at this tough problem, you've studied, you know your stuff, but in that moment, poof. It's like your brain just goes offline, everything you learn seems to evaporate, and your mind is just blank. It's totally paralyzing, and trust me, it happens to the best of us. And this is so important. The issue isn't your ability. It's not that you're not smart enough. It's about a lack of clarity in applying what you know quickly. Think of it like a library. The books are all there, but under pressure, the card catalog is on fire. You can't find what you need. It's a retrieval problem, not a knowledge problem. So, what's the typical reaction to this problem? Well, most of us fall into what I call the memorization trap. It sounds like a good idea on the surface, but spoiler alert, it almost never works. And here's the difference in a nutshell. On one side, you have the trap, which is trying to memorize like 50+ unique solutions. It's insane. You're basically just playing the lottery, hoping you get asked a question you've seen before. But on the other side, you have the key. And that's about recognizing just a handful, maybe 5 core patterns. See the difference? It's about working smarter, not harder. And this leads us to the big idea here, the pattern recognition shift. This is a complete change in how you see these problems. You stop trying to memorize answers and instead learn how to diagnose the question itself. So what are these magical patterns? You'd be surprised. A massive number of those supposedly impossible interview questions, they really just boil down to one of these 3 core ideas: dynamic programming, graph problems, and backtracking. Let's break them down real quick. Okay, first up, dynamic programming. The big clue for this one is when you see a problem that has overlapping subproblems. What does that mean? Well, think about calculating a Fibonacci number. To get the 10th one, you need the 9th and 8th. To get the 9th, you need the 8th and 7th. You see, you're calculating the 8th Fibonacci number over and over. DP is just the simple genius idea of saying, hey, let's solve each small piece just once, save the answer, and reuse it. That's it. Solve, save, reuse. All right. Next up, graph problems. These are everywhere. Anytime a problem talks about connections, like cities and roads, friends in a social network, or tasks that depend on each other, your brain should immediately scream graph. They might look really complicated, but honestly, they almost always boil down to a few standard ways of exploring them, like DFS or BFS. Think of it like Google Maps finding you the shortest route. Your job is just to see that there's a map hidden inside the question. And our third big pattern, backtracking. The perfect analogy for this is solving a Sudoku puzzle, right? You put a number in a box, you move on. If you get to a spot where you can't place a number, what do? You don't just throw the whole puzzle away. No, you go back, you backtrack to the last choice you made, and you try a different number. That's all backtracking is. It's a smart way of exploring all the possibilities by cutting off the paths that you know are wrong. So when you make this shift, something really cool happens. It's not just about the code. It's about what happens inside your head. It's about going from sheer panic to having that aha moment. So listen, the secret isn't about having some superhuman ability to memorize every algorithm ever written. It's all about learning to spot the patterns. That's the whole game. The second you can look at some ridiculously worded problem and your brain goes, wait a minute, this is just a backtracking problem dressed up in a weird costume, everything changes. The panic disappears and you suddenly feel in control. And what does this look like in the real world, in that interview room? It gives you a process, a repeatable plan. First, you see the problem, but instead of panicking, you recognize the pattern. Once you've got the pattern, you know exactly which toolbox to reach for, and then you can solve it with confidence. It takes all the guesswork out of it.
Okay, so why is this so critical, especially right now? Because let's be real, this is your competitive edge.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. These advanced algorithm questions, they are almost always the make or break moment in an interview. This is the filter. This is where they separate the maybes from the yeses. Nailing this can literally be the one thing that gets you the offer.
And mastering this gives you a huge edge. Look, anybody can spit out a solution they memorized. But when you can take a problem you've never seen before, break it down calmly, and say, this looks complicated, but at its core, it's a dynamic programming pattern, wow. You're not just showing you can code, you're showing you can think. And that is what gets you hired.
So the big takeaway is this. Stop seeing an impossible wall in front of you. Start seeing a puzzle that's just waiting for you to unlock it, because you now have the keys. And that really brings us to the final question you should ask yourself. Are you just preparing for an interview, or are you on your way to becoming a truly world-class problem solver? Because focusing on patterns isn't just a test-taking trick. It's a fundamental upgrade to how you think. What's your real goal here?